Hey everyone, my name is Ksenia, and today my guest here is the protagonist of pro wrestling, Kid Bandit!
Hello!
Thank you so much for being here!
Thank you for having me! I'm really hyped up.
It's WrestleMania weekend. We're
Super exciting!
super excited for everything.
So much wrestling.
So much
It's like
wrestling.
Avengers Assemble, but everyone's a wrestler and
And there's wrestling literally from like 10 a.m. to 3 a.m. and then all
There's-
over again.
There's like 5 different wrestling shows happening at the same time as WrestleMania right now.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
And you have to choose
Is this
something.
like your first Mania weekend?
No, it's my third Mania weekend.
You're more experienced than I am.
It's your first Mania weekend?
Yeah, this is my first year as wrestling.
Yeah. I mean, that's special though. That's like a cool experience.
Actually, it's like my 9th month.
So I usually dive right in with the questions. You know, I'm not going to be that person. I'm going to be like, oh, like, what's your dream match? No, we're not doing that. We're doing the serious stuff. Well, not super serious, but you know,
Yeah.
stuff that's specific to you. So we're going to start from afar, from the start of your career, I guess. So you trained with Nightmare Factory, correct? How was that experience for you? And, you know, what was special about it? What did you learn from it?
I have to like put the disclaimer. I started training at Santino Bros in LA. When the pandemic hit, I haven't debuted yet. I have like 9 months of experience before the Nightmare Factory. When I went to the Nightmare Factory, it was after like the year of like the country shutting down. California was the last state to open up, so my wrestling school wasn't open yet. But I was friends with Brooke Havoc on Facebook, and I saw that through her that she went to the Nightmare Factory. So with a little bit of like online, like, you know, finagling. I was yeah, right. I hope I use that word in a proper connotation. I found the Nightmare Factory, ran in Georgia. I told my tag team partner Ish, who you saw us on Dark together.
Yeah.
Yeah, you took that picture. I was like,
Insert
yes,
picture.
yes, that one. So I told him, hey, you want to go to like the factory, like the Nightmare Factory? Like it would be a great way to like not only get trained by like Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
Cody is like my favorite wrestler growing up because like I ironically enough I played as Cody Rhodes in the 2009 like season mode of like SmackDown vs. Raw. So yeah, okay, moving on.
Well, that's really cool. Fun fact, though.
Yeah, and like being able to learn from him was really what made it special because his approach to wrestling, he lives and breathes wrestling. He talked to everybody else like in a very specific rulebook manner, and as far as like, hey, so this is how you improve your character. So like Cody's involvement was less on the technical wrestling side, more on like the promo side, more on the character development side, which is like essential in wrestling. Like people forget that like you could do all the cool moves, but if you don't know how to place them in the match, how to like do the psychology, how to even like how to make it make sense with your character. Like if you have a character that's like a shooter wrestler and suddenly you bust out like all these like flashy like triple moonsaults, it's like
Then doesn't make sense.
yeah, exactly. So he had ideas for us individually, but with me, like I remember the number one thing that Cody said to me was like, all the rules that apply to everyone else don't apply to me because my character is so out of this world. And this is like not Cody Rhodes giving me advice. This was Stardust giving me advice, right? So I think people forget that Cody is such a very character wrestler.
Yeah.
He had the dashing gimmick. He had the undashing gimmick. He had the Stardust.
People do forget that because like now he's not like that, but he's done
exactly
all of those characters.
And that was like, I think that's what made it special, is that like even though he himself like at this point in his career has a very specific like almost like old school wrestling style in a new age world, he still had like bits and pieces of advice for me specifically because even though he doesn't really get what I was trying to do with the anime stuff, he's kind of a geek too. He understands like the references, the Legend of Zelda stuff. So it wasn't like I was alienated. In fact, because he was Stardust. He had that whole pool to like pull from. QT was in charge of like the moveset development, which, fun fact, And I've said this before, QT was the one who taught me the Phoenix Splash. So everybody who's like, you know, who kind of looks down on QT for not being like a moves wrestler, they're wrong. QT can do almost every move in the world, except for the ones I've invented.
And that takes us back to how it's very important for the moveset to make sense with the character.
Absolutely.
Again, if QT was to whip out the Phoenix Splash, it would make zero sense.
I mean, yeah, but like they do it way better than I do it. So I think it would be like one of those like really cool, like, oh my God, where did that come from? Kind
Yeah,
of
like no one expects it, and suddenly
exactly. Everybody expects me to do it, so it's like, you know, but when QT does it, it's like, what? You know, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Have to put him over, you know, because like he was very essential in my training. Yeah, coach, let's go, coach. Yeah.
Hello, coach, if you're watching.
Yeah.
And we already touched upon AW Dark a little bit. You were in AW Dark, and I feel like you got a really great reaction, and a lot of people recognized you. And there's quite some indie sweethearts that appear on AW Dark, but I feel like you were one of the wrestlers that really got the hype out of it.
Yeah.
Do you feel like they influence your presence a lot, or do you feel like they just give it a little boost and then it's...
So I can even like scale that back from like my debut with the Nightmare Factory, because like that's kind of like, it's not explicitly said, but like some of us come from the Nightmare Factory, like we see the AEW Dark opportunities, like, whoa, yeah, like now we like, you know, that's like it validates all the training we do, because like that's basically our coaches saying like, oh, you guys are good enough to be on like the program. So I went viral, like not to like the scale I have now, but I went viral on my very first, the picture that Cody took on my camp, like went around on the internet, and people saw my hair and they were like, oh, that's an anime character. Well, boy, do I have news for you. I am. Like, that's the gimmick. It worked out well, and then I got on Dark, and I had like really tiny fan base at that point, but like when I went on Dark, they were very vocal. They're like, yeah, let's freaking go, Kid Bandit.
Yeah, right there were so many hashtags, and people were really
yeah, like the first time, like it was exposure for me for a lot of people, which kind of like it led to me getting booked on DPW. And DPW is my home promotion, basically. And after DPW, I got on Dark again, and this time around, I didn't do great in that match. I was like, kind of like, I wasn't botching stuff, but I was sloppy. But like, but that's because like the way I wrestle is kind of supposed to be clunky and like clumsy. Like, it's in character for me not to like move crisp. I can, but like, you know, like. Yeah, like that's just like what I do personally. So like it doesn't translate as good sometimes. It just doesn't translate good to like purists, because purists have a very
boring people.
Yeah, they look at like wrestling and it has to be like everything has to be a perfect back bump, and like, okay,
you have to move like a robot. No.
Yeah, like I'm not a rule book wrestler at all. Like at all. Like I respect the craft, but I respect it in my specific way. And what ended up happening was I wasn't proud of like my performance in that match, but somehow, some way, I trended on Twitter. That was wild.
Because again, people like bright visual that hooks you immediately.
Yeah.
Because I feel like with a lot of wrestlers who get featured, and this is not me being shady, I don't mean it in a bad way, but I feel like with a lot of wrestlers who get featured, they don't get to showcase much, and to actually get into them and to actually like them, you have to like dig deeper and you have to look them up and you have to give it time. But I feel like with you and your character, it's like instantly.
Yeah, like it's the visual aspect of it. Like you said, you're absolutely right in that your time on AEW Dark, you don't really have a lot to like showcase as like your moveset. Yeah. Apropos, that it's called Dark Elevation because it's supposed to elevate you, but it also elevates the talent in the company. Like when you come into AEW Dark and Dark Elevation, your job is to make your enhancement talent. You're supposed to enhance the show by making the signed contracted talent look good. So in my case, it was a lot of like, it was a combination of like, I had like a very vocal Twitter fan base and I look like the way I do, which kind of like just like, what the hell is that? And then, I think because of I'll touch up on it now because you might be asking me for it later, but like the LGBT aspect of me, which I've gotten a lot more open, like progressively.
And we are going to talk about it.
Yeah. So
if you're okay with that.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Which is this is a great segue to it, right? Like, so I think because I appeared on Dark and Dark Elevation, and like there's not a lot of like non-binary wrestlers in the world. Like there's Max the Impaler. There's Don
who was actually on Gay Branch as well.
I forgot to take a picture with them. Okay,
I didn't take a picture either. It said hi, but
I know I said hi too. Okay, we'll fix that like somehow. Anyway, like there's a lot of like hunting for heroes there's not a lot of role models right now to like find, and when you do find one and you latch onto them, like there's a lot of like hero worship, which I think is kind of what's happening with me, which like I don't like the fact that people kind of devote to themselves to me because there's not a lot of representation. Like my ultimate goal is for me not to be so special because I'm non-binary.
Not to be the only one.
Yeah, exactly. And there's more of us, and I like Richie Coy from SoCal is one. I said Don't Die Miles. You know, there's a bunch.
Sunny Kiss.
Sunny Kiss, yes, you know, Sunny Kiss. There's very much representation right now in the indies if you're willing to dig deep. I got lucky in that because I have that visual flair and I was featured on such a major like stage. Like people who were like looking for that kind of like saw it right away and they're like, oh, easy, like I could gravitate to that. And it's because like who I am as a wrestler is so multi-layered. Like you might not be non-binary, but you might like anime. So you might gravitate to that. You might not like anime, but you're non-binary. So you might gravitate to that. You might not be into anime. You might not be non-binary, but you like colorful hair.
Yeah.
You gravitate to that. Maybe you don't like any of that, but you like flashy kicks. So I've gotten lucky in that I have a lot of things going on for me, especially on the networking side. That like you know, Nyla Rose is my kayfabe mom right now.
I love her so much.
No, she's the best. Oh, she's so funny.
She's in Nyla Rose's fan club right now.
Yeah. Hi, Mom!
We very smoothly segued into
we did.
This part of your life and into this part of your social media presence as well. And you've been very public about your journey discovering your gender identity on the internet. So the question is, I mean, you again kind of touched upon this, but maybe a bit. Let's go a bit deeper in here. Why do you think it's important to make such things public? Because, and I'm asking not because I'm stupid like that.
No. You want, yeah.
Yeah, but because a lot of people have a problem with that, and a lot of people feel like it should be kept private. But can you explain to them, why do you think it's important?
Okay, I could give you two answers. The selfish answer is I want clout and I want money.
I respect that so much because I also want clout.
But like, okay, there's a way I could make that wholesome, and like that's what I was gonna get at. Is that I want clout and I want money. I want to be a public figure because I'm open about my identity. And up till today I wrestled in the Big A brunch. I was wearing a dress. I was very feminine. Even now I'm still like feminine. Like especially here in Texas where I'm kind of making a statement. I'm like,
because Texas is.
There's a lot of transphobic laws right now, and it's kind of like this was my form of like activism and stuff. But I wanted to show whoever is watching that even if they're not into wrestling, like I'm succeeding in my career path. I'm making a nice like little tidy profit. Hopefully it gets more money, more clout.
And more clout.
Yeah, exactly, right? I want to be unproblematic about it too. Like I'll tell people straight up, like I want clout and I want money, but I also want to be good. And ultimately the clout and the money can go like it's in the back end. I just want to be a good person because like I remember how it was like when I met Cody. Like I met Cody before, like meet and greets. But when I met Cody again as like he's my trainer, he's my coach, and he was just a good person. I was just like, wow, like I want to be like that. And Glacier was kind of like the same thing, and QT was the same too. QT was like the best advice, like, and to kind of go back to like what I learned from the factory, like the best thing I learned from there wasn't the moves. It wasn't how to market yourself. It wasn't the character. It was the singular advice that I also got from Serpentico. I got it from a bunch of like other like wrestlers who made it too. Like so, this is advice that
worked. Yeah.
Yeah, and here it is. And if you're like a wrestler or like or a wrestling personality, and you're trying to get far in the business, this is like the best advice I've ever gotten. Right? You will get further in this business by being a good person than by being great at what you do. And like, oh my God, like especially in like the social climate that we live in 2022 where people put more stock in like people's character outside of like their wrestling. Like there is a reason why like certain wrestlers who are tremendous, I don't want to name names, right? But they're tremendous in the ring, but like every time you bring up their name in a conversation, people kind of have like this like look in their faces because of like dubious things that they've done. So like or allegations or whatever.
Or something they said on the internet.
Exactly. So like when they said that, I was like, okay, so my goal is number 1, be a good person. Number 2, be a great person. Number 3, get money and fame and clout. And that was it. So why would I go public with my gender identity, my journey about finding myself? Well, 1, it's because I found the confidence to be the real me because people were supportive online. I dressed up as Zero Suit Samus on Halloween. I've always known, like, and it's funny too, like, MV Young kind of told me the same thing when I met them. They were like, the internet and the LGBT community knew I was like non-binary trans before I knew I was.
Yeah.
But part of me also knew that already. But when I posted like the video of me like dressed up as Zero Suit Samus on Halloween, like everybody assumed it was a joke. Like, no, it was like, it made, when I did that, I was like, no, I feel like this is also me. Like, this was, it was opening a door to that. And the public reception to it was good. I got a lot of great attention from it. But I also like thought about it, like, no, this isn't me like doing this for clout. This is me finding out who I am.
Yeah.
And it was like kind of heartwarming to see. I get a lot of messages every day, and it's like people just saying, hey, because you're living the best you, like you're just openly, unabashedly like a non-binary, and you're cool with it. Yeah. And like I'll give like a not so heartbreaking example, because like a lot of them are very heartbreaking.
Yeah, I mean I can imagine that, because a lot of people are going through their own journey in very traumatic ways.
Yeah. So like I guess like from the top of my head, like somebody messaged me and they were like, today I got the confidence to paint my nails and go out in public, and I did it because I see you do it. And fun fact, I barely paint my nails because I'm always wrestling, so it always comes off, and I'm like, I have a hard time like managing it, because you know but I do paint my nails because it makes me feel beautiful, and it's very aesthetically pleasing to me, and they found that very aesthetically pleasing. They wanted to do it, and they felt rejuvenated that they did it, and they would have never been able to do that if I wasn't so open about that. And I'm not saying I'm the root of like all these people like finding out like stuff about their sexuality, identity. I do get a lot of messages saying that I am. I absolutely don't think that like I deserve all that credit, because like no, like you had it in you the whole time. Maybe you just saw me as the catalyst to like help push that. And when I'm open about it, my whole thought process is like, going back to what I said earlier. Oh my God, is that a dragonfly? Sorry.
It is a dragonfly.
Oh my God, it's so cool. So sorry. When I said earlier, like, there's not a lot of representation.
Yeah.
But so while there's not a lot of representation, I might as well be super vocal about it.
Yeah.
That way, like, people don't have to hunt too much. And if they don't like me specifically and they want someone else, they'll see who I'm like following. They'll see who I'm like associating. And then they might like, so like maybe they're non-binary, they know that me as a non-binary wrestler, but they freaking hate anime, like with a passion.
With a burning passion.
Exactly. And then, okay, cool, but like they see me interact with someone like Richie Coy, who is also non-binary, but then Richie Coy doesn't have that whole anime aesthetic. There, it's very floral and like, you know. Yeah. So shout out to you, Richie Coy. I'm putting you over, okay? Yeah. Then they see them, and maybe they gravitate to them more. So I'm kind of like a gateway to like a big portion of like underrepresented like part of like the community. And I'm not just talking about like the LGBT aspect. I'm also talking about the Asian American aspect. I'm talking about like all kinds of stuff, like the short people aspect.
That's why we say intersectionality is so important, because it's like, it's not that you're just non-binary and that's everything that you are. It's all these intersections that make you the person that you are, and that make you
layers.
Layers.
Also, a thing is like, I know there's certain like wrestlers, and not just wrestlers, but people where it almost seems like their entire personality is like their gender identity. Yeah. And I didn't understand that when I wasn't like, you know, as open about it, but I get it now. It's because it's such a repressed and discriminated aspect of like their lives, that when they finally get to be unabashedly open about it,
when they find an outlet that allows them to be open about it,
it's just the bottle like tipping point boiling, and it's exploding, and it's going to be a lot. And people have to understand that that's why, like, you know, it seems like that's their entire personality. It's not. Like, they have like layers too. It's just now they get to be proud, and that I think that's really appropriate. It's called pride, right?
Yeah, that's very
that was really profound. I'm really proud of myself for that. There are
but
some.
You have to like really look for it.
Yeah, you have to look for it. So like Edith Surreal was there today, and like I just hugged her, like because like there's not a lot of trans wrestlers right now. So like when I opened up about my like plans to do HRT and stuff, like, and shout out to Mariah Moreno, who's like the first transgender wrestler, who was always supportive, always messaging me and giving me like encouragement, like having them pave the way, like Sunny, you know, like hi mom too, hi. They really just made like they have their own set of obstacles to like, you know, overcome. Like it's all like, but at the same time, because they exist, people like me can follow our dreams and be open about it, you
Yeah.
know? And I'm in a weird spot too where like for the longest time my sexuality and my gender identity is disconnected from Kidd Bandit, the character, because Kidd Bandit, the character, is very anime, right?
Yeah.
But also like the moveset doesn't like, you know, like it's very anime too, so like that was like the entire presentation. The more I gauge like what like fans need and want, the more I realize I can be open about it. I don't want to exploit it to the point where like that's everything about me, because like
even though like just the word exploit doesn't feel right in this context, because it's still a part of you, it's still part of your identity,
absolutely.
and you're free to do whatever with it. You're free to freaking fly a flag with it.
Absolutely. I think it was just kind of like one of those things I'm trying to also overcome is like until today I don't really like, I don't wrestle feminine because I do struggle from imposter syndrome because I blew up like so fast in such a short amount. I haven't even been wrestling for a year yet at this, like at the time of this, like, you know, filming, so. But I'm gaining so much traction. I'm in big shows. I was on TV. Like I debuted for Dark. I was like my 3rd month in wrestling ever. So like the pressure was there. Like I debuted on the same episode Bryan Danielson debuted on Dark. And I wrestled my childhood hero in front of like hundreds of thousands of people online. And they were also like the vice president of the company. And I kicked that bejesus out of their head that day. So it was like, yo, like, you know, I had a lot to prove on the wrestling side. I had to prove that, hey, I'm not gonna get over because of my look. I'm not gonna get over because I'm gender fluid and I'm like using that market to like put myself up. I'm not even gonna get over because I have a lot of followers on Twitter. I'm gonna get over because I'm good at what I do in the wrestling side, because it's deeply ingrained in me that for the longest time, like LGBT wrestlers were often put in like caricatures and stereotypes.
Yeah, put in a box.
Yeah, and exactly. They were put in a box and they were kind of just stuck doing that. So it was my personal mission to like, if I'm gonna get like big in like a big name in wrestling, I want it to because I'm good in the ring, and everything else is kind of secondary. I am learning now that it's okay to embrace that part of me, because what we are too is we are entertainers. We wrestle and the moves are for ourselves. The technique is for ourselves. Like us like being really crisp in the ring, that's for the wrestlers and the purists. But my fan base and the people I think Kid Bandit like reaches aren't really like die hard wrestling fans. They're fans that want like someone who stands for something.
Yeah.
And so now I'm learning to like embrace that role. Am I good at it? No, because there is a part of me that wants the validation of like, oh, Kid Bandit is a great wrestler. You know.
I mean, I feel like it's a natural thing whenever you create something, which I feel like wrestling is a very creative
Performance
job,
art, yes.
art, yeah.
Performance art.
Performance
Yes.
art, yeah, absolutely. I have it in my Twitter bio.
I know, that's why I brought it up.
I feel like it's very normal when you're creating something to crave feedback and to crave that validation, because I feel like it's very primal. It's like, oh, I carved this horse out of this rock. Please tell me it's cute. It's like, it's very normal. It's very human.
Yeah.
Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about is how especially in televised promotions, in mainstream wrestling, we still have very prominent gender divisions. And it almost feels like even if that larger company does employ, say, a non-binary wrestler, again, Sonic is, it almost feels like they don't fit in because it's just so strictly divided into men, women. So do you feel like there's even a need for gender divisions in the modern wrestling, and how does a non-binary person navigate all that in wrestling?
I will say I saw a couple of tweets when Sonny was on, I believe, Rampage. And yeah, it was Rampage. The tweet went like this: oh my gosh, Sonny Kiss can go. I'm like, man, Sonny Kiss can always go.
Right?
Like, why? Like, what? Like, are you like so baffled that they were doing wrestling good because of like who they are, like because they're non-binary? No, like they've always been good. They're elite. Wink, you know, like
all elite,
right? They wouldn't be at that position in like the cream of the crop, like in the best wrestling company in the world.
If she wasn't good.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, but they can go. Like, they've always been able to, like, you know. And it's almost like they look at like Sonny being a non-binary as a handicap, because it's like, oh well, they're
which makes zero sense.
Yeah, they're too feminine. I'm like, well, brother, a newsflash for you.
She's also athletic as hell.
So strong
Like,
too. So
jacked.
Yeah, I saw Sunny Kiss work out when I was in Nightmare Factory. Like, holy hell, you know? Like, do you see how toned they're like an Amazon goddess, like built like one, you know? Anyway, hi mom. Yeah, like people look at their femininity as like a handicap. It's like it's almost as if like, hey brother, women can kick your ass.
Yeah, that's almost like that's misogyny, but in a different font.
Yeah,
it's like, oh,
it's like passive aggressive.
Women are so weak and terrible. So if this person is kind of feminine, then how come they can wrestle well?
Yeah, and like I'm very feminine, especially in the brunch today. That was like the most feminine I've ever been in a match. And you remember, I took the most punishment for no reason. But that was by design because I'm like, look how tough I am. You know, like.
And you can take all that and wear a dress and look great.
I know, and be funny too. Yeah. But okay, so the double standard is absurd because everyone's like, well, women are fragile, women wrestlers are fragile, and then venerate Joshis. Because like they beat the crap out of
they're like 12 years old and they will kill you.
Yeah, and they're oh look how cute they are, but they're vicious. It's like, okay, so like you guys are okay with Joshis being tough, but like regular American wrestlers who happen to have like vaginas or who identify as women, like they're suddenly like not as tough. Like no, like if
how does that work?
Yeah, exactly. You can't
can cherry pick where you respect or disrespect women.
Why can't people like suspend their disbelief? You don't need to suspend your disbelief to believe a woman can kick someone's ass because like they can. Like look at you. You could probably look at that. Like you could go to the gym, lift a bunch of weights, develop all this muscle, and suddenly like you're so much stronger than like
killer.
Exactly.
If I weren't a lazy ass, and if I weren't a couch potato. And then
if you and Jim Cornette had to fight each other, I would put my money on you.
She was the ugliest blonde I've ever seen, half her head shaved and a nose like a cucumber.
Good.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I would defeat Jim Cornette on pure rage.
Yeah, because like, okay, granted, I don't know anything about Jim Cornette. I pretend he doesn't.
He called me ugly, so
I don't even.
He can get these hands if you want. I'm kidding. I'm a lover, not a fighter.
but like what? Jim Cornette's like what? 5'7", 5'8"? I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny because like not to sidetrack too much, but I was talking to a friend about how like I get a lot of hate on the internet, obviously, and they were like, oh, like if you were a jacked tattooed dude, no one would say that. And I was like, well, what they don't realize is in real life, I'm 6 foot and just as intimidating. So
yeah, look at like the size difference. but it's so believable for someone like Kid Bandit to wrestle in like the men's division because like they happen to be
so
born.
Much more believable, of course.
Like no, I put money on So where do I go with like the gender divisions and stuff?
You don't even need them.
So it's weird for me because I do think that people who book companies have the prerogative to like dictate how they want to run their company because as much as we look at wrestling as a performance art, the booker's standpoint is this is also their performance art. Them booking the stories, the storylines, all that stuff. If they so choose to separate the men and the women divisions because like they want their artistic freedom to express that, absolutely. But I do think that that's the end of that. Like fans need to like look at things from a perspective of like if you can believe that Black Widow can like fight Hawkeye and like be on even ground with them, then you should be able to believe that someone like I don't know, like from the top of my Asuka can like fight like Rey Mysterio, you know? So
yeah, and Rey Mysterio is one of the like easier ones because he's tiny.
Yeah, and
compared to her.
Yeah, but also because like you know Rey Mysterio, even if you like eliminate like okay, let's not use Rey Mysterio. Let's use like Tommaso Ciampa versus Asuka.
I do love the example of Rey Mysterio because people buy Rey Mysterio versus the Great Khali, Rey Mysterio versus Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio versus Seth Rollins, perfectly fine.
Yeah, but like, exactly. But like someone like I don't know, like freaking like Nyla Rose versus like freaking Orange Cassidy or perfect Serpentico. Nyla Rose versus Serpentico. So like they already beefing on Twitter. Why they can't like have like match because like
why not?
Our job is simulated combat. Why can't we simulate like interdivision? And that's what makes like so I work for a DPW and DPW doesn't really have like gender division. DPW is so progressive too, so it's like it's refreshing. It's a refreshing take. Like the main event of like
when you don't have those boundaries that sometimes bar you from having the experience. Because like you said, Nyla and Serpentico have been beefing on Twitter. Like I would love to see a match.
Yeah, I would like. I want a payoff. I want like exactly. But I do get why promoters don't want to do that and. it sucks because we as a society got preconditioned to believe that biologically men are more superior than women, even though like realistically speaking in a fight it can go either way. You really
depending on a specific person versus specific person.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like men will always overpower women. Like no, specific men can overpower specific women, and it works vice versa. Like especially on the internet. Oh boy, you will never change someone's opinion on the internet.
No.
So there's no point.
Because like I'm a feminist, right? And I've done public talks and I've done videos on women's issues. And in reality, this content is directed at people who are on the fence or at people who don't understand and people who are willing to learn. But you're not going to change some friggin' hardcore misogynist's opinion.
Absolutely.
And that's the type of comment that I get a lot. Like, oh, do you really think you're going to change someone's mind? No, not really. But I think I'm going to sway someone who's not sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really, really good way to like look at that too. Because like someone who like, and if you're watching this and you already made up your mind and you've like got to this point of the video and you're still watching. The joke's on you because you wasted your time. You're not the demographic we're trying to like.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Chad?
Hey, thank you so much for like
Thank you for the view.
Thank you for the view. Thank you. Oh gosh, the microphone foam came out. Thank you for the view. Thank you for like staying and like engaging the YouTube algorithm.
Press a like while you're at
it. Yeah, please like and subscribe, all that stuff. But like, I love my fan base. I love them because like every time someone comes after me, they're like,
oh.
We're ready. But
with like pitchforks.
Yeah, exactly. Which it's dangerous for me to like just have that like ready to like jump at my defense kind
and
of. And
some wrestlers do let it get to their head. Yeah, not to name drop anyone, but some wrestlers do let it go to their head, and they do use this force for things that aren't necessarily good. Like they try to direct it at people.
And that's scary because I'm starting to get that power. And
with great power comes great
responsibility. I know. Which hey, protagonist. Right. So exactly. So I always every time somebody comes after me, I either don't engage or I just tell them, hey, have a good day, and I try to be as vibrant and polite as possible because like look, I'm not gonna say I could make my fans like jump off a cliff and like and anything I tell them they're gonna follow like to a T. But I will say if I could show them that hey, like if you kill someone with kindness, it might be a better approach. And if they engage, like it always catches them off guard too. Like
it does.
When they're like, oh, like Kid Bandit sucks. Yeah, like I'm homophobic. And I'm like, okay, good for you. I hope you seek professional help. Have a good day. And like my fans are like, some of them still are very like aggressive about it, which I get it and I appreciate it. But I also want to urge like people to just kind of like approach like like trolls or like haters or people with different opinions. Like that's like the key word. Like people with different opinions don't necessarily mean they're bad people. It's just their upbringing has led to them to have this specific set of beliefs that contradict your own. It might make them a bad person in your eyes, but to them in their eyes, they're not doing anything wrong. And there's like to go back to what we were talking about, there is absolutely no way that you can undo like decades and decades of like upbringing in like one conversation. Because it would be nice if like life works that way, but like nobody has that like charisma level. Nobody has that. And even if they do have that charisma level, it's not gonna like nobody's gonna turn with like 2 comments or a tweet.
It takes time, it takes effort, it takes a lot of information.
Like I remember I have a friend who all throughout high school they were very homophobic. They were very and I kept them around as a friend because like when you're a wallflower and you didn't really have friends growing up, you don't really have a lot of places to go. You don't have a lot of friends to like have. So and they were nice to me, but they didn't know I was LGBT. So very recently I had a conversation with them, and they still dropped the F slur, which is a very very unfortunate. But something happened, which kind of really caught me off guard because like I don't really talk to them anymore. They're my friend from like by virtue that I've known them for years, but I don't talk to them. But they messaged me and they called me and they were just like talking to me, and I accidentally dropped the F-bomb, and then their first instinct was like, hey, I am so sorry I said that. I know that that's offensive to you, and I'm paraphrasing how they went about it. There was a lot of like slang lingo involved in this conversation, like on their end. But they based the context of like the conversation. They accidentally dropped the F-bomb. Actually, I think they deliberately said it. Then they realized, hey, look, I'm learning. I'm learning not to be like that. I'm learning to respect people's like specifically with me at least. And I get that it's not gonna change overnight, but we have to give people a chance because. Like, I think a bad approach about it is if like someone has like a different opinion but they're kind of on the fence and you immediately shut them down. It's like, oh, you're a transphobe. Like maybe they're not transphobe. Maybe they just had that upbringing their whole life and they're good people that's learning to see the world in a different perspective. And if you never give them the shot to change by being such condescending about it, they will never turn. And if you have to like show them that like, hey, so this is why. You can't let your emotion drive that like conversation. You have to like look at it in a very logical aspect. And maybe you won't, and maybe you're wasting your time. Maybe they will never change their opinion. But it doesn't hurt to like just be nice to people.
It doesn't hurt to not shut down someone who might actually be in the process of learning or realizing something.
Exactly. It doesn't really apply to me because I go by all pronouns, which you know I think is convenient. It's convenient.
Like, whichever one you use, it's right.
Yeah, exactly. I don't go by all pronouns for convenience sake. I do it because I'm comfortable with all. But it's also one of those things where people would come up to me and they'd kind of like apologize for like misgendering me and stuff like that, or like or my friend who had this whole problem about like they had a very homophobic Catholic upbringing and they're learning to respect me and stuff because I am transitioning. And one of the things my friend Takahata 101, who is a famous VTuber, shout out Taka. Okay, we had a conversation and they brought up that they had a friend that was transitioning and they had an incident where somebody was apologizing, very similar to my incident, and they said, well, how do you deal with people who misgender you or people who don't really know, like how to address this because the concept of transitioning or like LGBT is so foreign and alien to them because of their upbringing. And Taka's friend basically said, I have to remember that the transition isn't just for me, but it's a transition for everyone else too. And I think that was so profound. So I like to live by that like concept. Like, I get it. I have to be patient with other people. I can't just go up and be like, I demand you do like this. I demand to be treated like this. Because for 26 years, I'm 26.
I'm 26 too.
Oh, yeah! 95. Okay. I have to understand that people had like 26 years of like being...
Of a different life.
Of being used to me being someone entirely different. So like seeing me drastically change almost overnight
to them, because like again, you like in your heart, you knew.
I've always exactly.
But for them, it's like they don't think twice about such things. And
absolutely not. Yeah. So I can't look at someone who was known me as like the person behind Kid Bandit, who was very masculine, like my whole life, and suddenly like my grandma. Like my grandma is so supportive. She doesn't understand what's going on. She absolutely has no clue. She thinks wrestling is
it's the spirit that counts.
Exactly.
As long as the person is open and kind. And,
exactly. And you can't look at people and just expect them to understand from the get-go because like 9 times out of 10 you don't even understand what you're doing either, right? So patience is key.
And really circles back to just being a good person.
So
that's gonna get you further in life than not being a good person.
And will get you a lot of money if you play your cards
and clout.
And clout.
And on that wonderful note, if you have anything to plug, this is the time to do it.
I social media and everything.
Clout, money.
Clout and money. Kid Bandit Pro and everything. Also Patreon, Kid Bandit Pro. Please subscribe. That's where I get money. I have a YouTube channel that I'm gonna start cultivating. I'm filming a lot of content for it. So like and it's not necessarily just wrestling. I'm gonna use wrestling as like kind of like to jump pad myself, but like there will be video games, there will be like non-wrestling stuff because guess what? I have a life outside of wrestling that I want to like showcase, right? Like oh my gosh. And then after that, I have a video game that I'm developing, which please download it if you want. It doesn't have any viruses. Well, I don't know why people think that. Like no, I am a legit video game developer, which it's all self-funded. It's called Rising Saga Origins. Please like check it out if you want to. Yeah, no, please watch my matches on YouTube because like
all the links will be in the description down below. And thank you so much for being here today.
Yes, thank you. Fun. Thank you for having me. Yeah, you're so easy to talk to. Oh my gosh.
Thank you. And in the meanwhile, give this video a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe, tap the notification bell to never miss an upload. And until next time, goodbye.